Well, it's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker who's known to everybody here on the call today, and that is our spiritual mother, the founder of SpeakEasy, Maureen Muldoon. Maureen.
Good morning. And yeah, thank you so much. So nice to be back and to be joining together. Last week, we heard from Lucy Williams, and she really left her mark with her meditation, and Todd Fink. And we have so many great teachers and healers here. And it's just wonderful to get to see it all happening. Got a great conversation today. Today, we're talking about the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and we're focusing on the first agreement, which is to be impeccable with your words. These agreements are non-secular and they're universal, and we'll find versions of them in every philosophy and theology. To be impeccable with your word sounds very similar to what the Course in Miracles says when it says to look, to wait, and to judge not. And it also sounds very much like what we hear in the 12th step, where they give us 3 questions. Does this need to be said? Does it need to be said now? Does it need to be said now by me? Byron Katie puts it this way. She asks us 4 questions. Is it true? Is it really true? So we see this thread throughout, and we could go all the way back to the 10 Commandments where it says, you shall not lie. So all of these ways we're being guided to be impeccable with our words. They all knew the power and the healing and the potential that can come from getting right with your words. Getting right with your words is a threshold to everything. And I feel like it's a rare man or woman who has a real full handle on the power, who really understands the degree of integrity that's required if you really want to experience your own extravagant liberation and limitless potential. But being here at SpeakEasy, as a member of SpeakEasy, we talk about this all the time. You know, we talk about the power of our word a lot. We talk about how the use of our word and how to use it well. You know, as community of storytellers and musicians and wordsmiths, we understand the power of a well-placed word and the intentions that can color it to cause a heaven or a hell. And we teach and we encourage affirmative prayer, which is a prayer that's fresh baked. It's not a rote prayer. It's a prayer that is using your own vernacular, and we empower people to use their own voices and to create a life that sings. So we know about that here. But I don't think the concepts of the impeccability of word is better spelled out as well as we get it from Don Miguel Ruiz in the 4 agreements. And the 4 agreements are based on the Toltec wisdom. The Toltecs are artists and scientists who formed a society to explore and conserve science. No, wait, that's not correct. The Toltecs were artists and scientists who formed a society to explore and conserve art. No, that's not correct either. The Toltecs were a community of artists and scientists who formed a society to explore and conserve spiritual knowledge. Isn't that interesting that they came together just like we're coming together today to explore and conserve spiritual knowledge? It takes the scientists and the artists together to do this. The love and the law to cultivate the Toltec heart. And the Toltec heart, as Don Miguel explains, is the heart that means to be worthy. Do you recognize how worthy you are? Sometimes that's the greatest hurdle that any of us will get past, is to try and comprehend and cultivate our own understanding of our worthiness. And then it goes on to say that it's not just a worthy heart, but it is a heart that excels at all things. You might think, excel at all things? Come on, give me a break. Isn't it just possible that we should just like do okay at some things? I mean, can't we just, give ourselves a break and fly under the radar and not be in our brilliance? That's why I love the 4 agreements, because they lay it out there, they lay out the truth for you, and then they encourage you to live up to it. To be impeccable means to behave, to perform, to appear in accordance with the highest standard of priorities. And then it goes on to say, it means faultlessness, faultlessness. What is faultless? What has no faults in it? Innocence. So it is your innocence that inspires your most powerful words. It is your innocence that inspires your most powerful words. It is your guilt. It is your guilt that causes your words to be like dead feathers in the wind. So your innocence is connected to everyone's innocence. You can't claim your own innocence and thus your power if you have your back up against the door holding your brother in a prison of your own assessment of his guilt. You can't do that. You will be draining all of your power in holding back and holding on to his guilt. So if you're innocent, you have accepted your innocence, and thus you cannot judge, because what you have, you see through. You will see what you are. And once you accept your innocence, you'll begin to see an innocent world. And when you see an innocent world, you will see a beautiful world. All the blaming and shaming and guilt, it will muddy and murk your words and your way. But your innocence will bring everything to a holy glow. So your words are creative. We need to use them with the precision of a holy scalpel that's going in to surgically untether you from your own limitations. Your words are creative. We use them with the precision of a holy scalpel that's going to surgically untether you from your own limitations. That is the power of your words. Because if to be impeccable means to behave, perform, and appear in accordance with the highest standard of propriety, faultlessness, then this is holy work that we're doing here. And this is how you walk your way back to God. God is considered the highest standard, is it not? And you're an extension of this God, of this highest standard. You are capable of excelling at all things. But that's just the math that they're laying out for us. We can debate it all we want. We can argue for our limitations all we want, but then of course we get to keep them. So you get to decide, right? Because although you can excel at all things, you also are at choice. And you can choose also not to excel. That's a choice on the menu. You can choose, to have yourself a perfectly fine, adequate experience here on the big blue marble. Just make it, mundane, make it adequate. You can decide not to excel. Or you could choose to strive towards impeccability and have a holy life that's filled with holy encounters. One choice is helpful and one choice is harmful. And it's kind of hard to think that my phoning it in or not living up to my potential is harmful, but it belies the truth about God. God did not create an adequate world, nor should you. We should strive towards genius. You might not get there, but if we're going to go to God, we're going to find ourselves veering towards brilliance. And I just love that idea. I was with a writing coach this past week, and she said, keep writing, keep your hand on the page. Stop, don't think, just veer towards brilliance. Just veer towards brilliance. Don't you love that? Now, here's the thing. Most people don't veer towards brilliance because it scares the crap out of them. And we want to play it safe. Marianne Williamson put it this way, and I'm going to read the whole poem because we don't always get to hear the whole poem. Sometimes we just hear one or two lines from this amazing poem. A poem written by this woman who is currently running for the president of the United States. Okay? Like, she's not playing it small. She's veering towards brilliance. She's done it before. She'll do it again. Who knows how many times she'll sign up. It doesn't matter if she wins. She's veering towards brilliance. So this is what she says. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, fabulous, talented? Who are you not to be? You're a child of God. You're playing it small does not serve the world. You're playing it small does not serve the world. You are here to serve the world. You are here to deliver service that sings. Her poem goes on to say, there's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. How many times do you shrink so that you to consider other people's feelings of inadequacies before you decide to experience or entertain your own experience of your own brilliance? Well, if I'm too brilliant, if I'm too big, that might make people feel uncomfortable, or it might wake them up, or they might say, hey, I'll have what she's having. And if it should piss somebody off, if somebody should look at Marianne Williamson, just as an example, and say, how dare she? Who does she think she is? She's just some, spiritual teacher on the fringes of, our current zeitgeist. And how could she even think about or consider running for presidency? And that's okay. Let people talk. They also get to live by the power of their word. So you're born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And that's let our own light shine. We unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. So just suck on that morsel of truth for a little while. Like that poem was so powerful that it was actually almost usurped by other teachers and spiritual leaders. It was many people, gave credit to other people besides Marianne Williamson for that poem, because that poem was so wonderful. It held so much truth, and it was inspired by A Course in Miracles. Personally, I try never to entertain an idea that will limit my God, myself, or my brother or sister. I try never to entertain an idea that will place limitations on my God, myself, or my brother or sister. We sometimes hear that people go on about their big problems and their big dramas. And we say, like, don't tell God your big problems. Tell your problems how big your God is. In the Bible, we hear about impure thoughts. Underestimating God or your brother or yourself is the ultimate in impure thoughts. So here's the good news. Once you decide that you're worthy of excelling at all things that God places before you, like, I'm not saying, like, if you're banging your head against the door trying to be, an underwater basket weaver or a poet or whatever, and it's just the water is not flowing, then maybe that's not what God's placing before you. Maybe we just got to look at what God's placing before you and then excel at that. And be the best at that you can possibly be. And as you excel at that, other doors will open for you. But we are here to excel at whatever God's plan is for us. And the world, as we do that, as we decide to really live up to our potential, what happens is the world conspires to support us. And I know that you've seen this in your own life, and I've seen it in my life time and time and time again. We just got back last night from our spiritual retreat in San Miguel, which I co-hosted with Barb Martin, who is this amazing, amazing writer. She'll be bringing her incredible story. It's a beautiful story. Every time she tells this story, when we were in groups together and we went to the convention together, and every time she told her story, I was just hung on every word. I was like, wow. And I watched people around her hang on every word. And I was like, wow, this woman's got such a great story. I cannot wait to see it birthed into a greater conversation. But anyway, it's about her and her mom and how she found her long lost mom through following the breadcrumbs of her mother's art. Her mother was this famous artist. She didn't even know it. I mean, it's just this beautiful story. So I co-hosted it with her and with Jackie Ungerna. I'm not great at pronouncing her last name, and I know that she'll forgive me. I'm trying to excel at all things, but I fail at some of them. So Jackie, another incredible being, started studying A Course in Miracles at 16. Her mom gave her the book. You don't meet too many people like that. She also lived on ashrams across the world, in Italy and in India, studied for 35 years with Thich Nhat Hanh. Brought her adopted daughter, to the ashram, and her daughter got to walk with Thich Nhat Hanh, hold hands with him. I mean, these are incredible beings that I got to collaborate with. And how did I get to partner with such rock stars? Because I was attempting to do my best to be impeccable. And I'm going to share with you very simple and yet life-changing tools that you can apply to your life that will help you to do the same. So Jackie and Barb opened all of us up as we were on this retreat to this city, to this culture in San Miguel that was just packed with spiritual encounters. Every nook, every cranny had this image of the Divine Mother, like speckled throughout the whole city. The Lady of Guadalupe was celebrated everywhere. We even had a scavenger hunt for the women. We said, whoever takes the most pictures of the Blessed Mother wins. I don't know what the prize was, but it was a fun game because we had so many pictures of the Blessed Mother. But literally, like, you walk down the street and there she is, and there she is, and there she is again. And if you can imagine a city that's immersed in the embrace of the Divine Mother, you can contemplate a city that is filled with so much love. Everyone seemed happy. So this is also a city where men and women dressed in feathers and thousands of colored beads, and they came into the town square and they danced and they sang and they banged their drums in celebration of their culture and also their Christ consciousness. We happened to be there on the exact day that these indigenous people came to town, one day out of the whole year that we happened to be there. I didn't plan that. You know who did? God. And they came and we got to witness this community that wore their heart on their sleeve when it came to their love of God. And I need to tell you, like, that's a sight to witness when you see men and women, children dancing in the heat and in the street to celebrate their connection with Christ. I mean, that is incredible. We attended classes. We went to art classes. We met up with this guy. I got to tell you about him. His name was Felipe Justi. Just think juicy, because he was totally juicy. Sorry to say that, but he was. And he was this artist who is swiftly becoming a world renowned. He is actually, his painting, he had a painting of Gary Zukav there. If you knew Gary Zukav, who wrote Seed of the Soul and many other books. And Gary turned out to be this kid. He was a young man, his spiritual mentor. Because Felipe, he's not just becoming known for his ability to paint in this outer worldly way where he paints the soul. Funny enough, he paints the soul of the person bursting out of the image. It's phenomenal. But he's becoming celebrated not just because of his talents, but because of his story and his words that he's using. And he is using his words so impeccably. He shared with us that his career had just began 5 years ago. He started painting. He didn't even know that he had this talent for painting, but he began to speak to himself in a kinder way. He shared with us that he had this book that he came upon that said, What to Say When Talking to Yourself. And it's by Shad Helmsetter. And Felipe told us that he was actually really, really depressed. He was really, really stuck in life. He wasn't painting. He didn't even know he could paint. He was basically holding on by a thread, and he began to work with his words, and he began to find books and teachers and mentors, and he began to heal his mind as we heal our mind when we practice A Course in Miracles or Byron Katie or whatever spiritual practice you're following at the moment. And Felipe told us that when he began to paint only 5 years ago, he realized that he had this dormant talent, and he began to use his words and painted words and word pictures for anybody who came into his gallery. And he told us that he would tell everyone, whether it was the guy who came in with a ton of money or whether it was just the gardener with no money, he would say, I will have my work displayed in major galleries throughout the world, and I will do this for all the other little Filipos who are out there who need to know that they too have greatness within them. And he said, I will tell whoever comes, I will tell the story until it is made manifest. Because the message that my art is here to extend is that each of us is the divine waiting to birth forth, waiting to burst forth. And I'm here telling you his story because his story caught fire in me. And now I'm sharing his words. And that's how impeccable words work. They just shoot arrows that shoot arrows that shoot arrows to the bullseye of your destination. So while in San Miguel, we also got to take some writing classes, as I said, and we got to study with some world-renowned poets and authors and agents. And we attended yoga classes with some incredible teachers. And we even had an impromptu visit from Tam Morgan, who is the director of the Foundation of Inner Peace. And that, along with all of this, just happened. It was not something that we planned. In San Miguel, she just happened to be there at the exact same time that we were there. And because Laura Fenimore knows me, she said, hey, you're in San Miguel? Well, Tam's in San Miguel too. And I was like, what? And so we invited her over for dinner, and she sat there and she just regaled all the ladies with all the history and the stories of A Course in Miracles and what happened and how it happened and what's going to happen, because she's the director. So now she's steering the ship and where she wants to take A Course in Miracles. And they just hung on every word, and we felt so filled up. And Tam Morgan was telling us stories about synchronicities in her life. And she was like, can you believe that happened? And I said, of course I can believe it happened, because right now I have the director of Foundation of Inner Peace doing a seminar at my retreat. I didn't plan it. So of course I believe it can happen, because I believe that God's plan is better than my plan, as I stay impeccable with my words. And I also believe these things because I pray. And praying is the most powerful way you can stay in impeccability with your word. And I pray for God to deliver each and every single one of us to the most impeccable experience, the experiences that are in accordance with the highest standard of propriety, because that's what impeccability means. And I do not waste my time talking about what I do not want to experience. So if you devote yourself to seeking God first, you too will experience experiences for the highest good. As Jesus said, it's done unto you as you believe. That has not changed. And you can expect miracles if you believe that God loves you. Now, if you believe in a limited God, in a fearful God, in a wrathful God, and you don't experience the expansive nature of your brilliance, then you need to get a bigger God. That's all. You just need to get a bigger God and use your words in witnessing to the greatness of your God. Wear it on your sleeve like those indigenous people came and danced their God in the streets. Like, don't be shy with your God. Say, my God is so good. My God lifts me from the fray, from the fears, from the frustrations, delivers solutions and sunlight and sisterhood and San Miguel experiences, and delivers me to a higher and greater good every day. It doesn't matter what you call your God, just that you call early and often. And as you expand your relationship with this big benevolent God, you'll come into contact with other artists and scientists who are also invested in conserving and exploring spiritual knowledge, as the Toltecs did. This happens, and this happens, and this happens all the time. When I walked in the streets of San Miguel, I actually greeted this lady. I had to say hi to her. Why? Because she was so lit up. I just saw light all around her. She was lit up like a Christmas tree. She was lit up like a lighthouse. And so I said hello to her and we got to talking. I actually said, do you live here? And she said, yeah, I do. And I said, wow, that's amazing. She said, well, your first visit, you'll be here for a week, the second 2 weeks, and the third you'll buy. And I said, okay, I trust you. But as I was speaking to her, Jackie came out of the house behind me and she said, Jenny, oh my God, it's you, my Buddhist teacher. This is my Sangha leader. I haven't seen you in so long. And I was like, wow. And before you knew it, she was telling us that this woman was ordained by Thich Nhat Hanh. And before you knew it, the monk, this woman who I happened to run into, was inviting us to her home, Casa Zen, to experience a Sangha. Some of the women that we were with didn't know what a Sangha was. And so this benevolent and generous monk that I happened to meet on the street invited us to her home with all of these other women in her community to contemplate the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh. And so we went off to Casa Zen and we, got to share a practice that she told us about that I thought in my head, like, thank you, God, for telling me about this practice, because this is exactly what I'm going to share on Sunday morning, because it's exactly about impeccable words. And what she shared with us was loving speech and deep listening. And this is a mindfulness teaching from Thich Nhat Hanh. And she shared of her beloved teacher and how his creeds were declarations and affirmations, and that we were invited also to commit to them. And she suggested that, that we would not do it perfectly, but that we should at least attempt perfection. And I just love that. So I'm going to read to you what she shared with us from this section of Thich Nhat Hanh's mindfulness practices called Loving Speech and Deep Listening. And it's something that you're supposed to affirm, like every morning. There's 5 of them, and this is just one of them. And it says, aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I am committing to cultivating loving speech and compassionate listening in order to relieve suffering and to promote reconciliation and peace in myself and among other people, ethnic and religious groups, and nations. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I am committing to speaking truthfully, using words that inspire confidence and joy and hope. When anger is manifest in me, I am determined not to speak. I will practice mindful breathing and walking in order to recognize and to look deeply in at my own anger. I know that the roots of anger can be found in my wrong perceptions and lack of understanding of the suffering in myself and the other person. I will speak and listen in a way that can help myself and the other person to transform suffering and to see the way out of difficult situations. I just was so happy that she offered that to me, because I get to offer it to you. And I just feel like it's just perfect. It goes on to say, I am determined not to spread news that I do not know to be certain. How about that? I am determined not to spread news that I do not know to be certain, and not to utter words that can cause division or discord. So just like the 12th step, does it need to be said? Does it need to be said now? Does it need to be said now by me? Most of the time when I'm willing to ask those 3 questions, I get 3 solid no's. Just button your lip. It goes on to say, I will practice right diligence to nurture my capacity for understanding, love, joy, and inclusivity, and gradually transform anger, violence, and fear that lies deep in my consciousness. And after she read that, we just sat in silence. And then she invited us to speak, just like we speak here, except she gave us a tool. She said, when you're going to speak, come and say, put your hands together and say, Maureen bowing in, and then you speak. And then when you're done speaking, you say, Maureen bowing out. So everybody knows when you start and when you stop. And I just thought that was so great. But underneath the all of the talking was the breath of silence between the words that spoke the loudest for all of us. Because I got to see that Tam, the president of Foundation for Inner Peace, and Jeannie, this Buddhist monk, and Filippo, this incredible artist, and the men and women dancing in the streets were not just making noise. They were making space. They were making space for the silent song of the divine. That an expansive awareness of something so beautiful happening just beneath our words when we're speaking in integrity and when we're speaking in impeccability. It reminded me of a quote that says, go placidly among the noise and the haste and remember what peace there may be in the silence. To leave space for that silence is what really rounds out the practice of being impeccable with your words. These holy encounters were not authored by my pen. I did not claim them or attempt to conduct them. I did not strive to meet monks and presidents and artists. I simply attempted to meet God. To meet God in all things and attempt to be impeccable with my words and my time and my devotion. And so, how can we not have holy encounters when we play our part, right? How can we not have holy encounters when we play our part? But I must say that our most holy encounter of all was with the children of San Miguel. 2 members of our community, Lisa Tolbert and Pamela Valentino Pence, put together a mosaic art project where we went to this school of kids that were underprivileged, and we spent the day filled with smiles and hugs and bluey fingers. chaos. And we attempted to use our broken Spanish to understand their impeccable language. And they just were so beautiful. They stared up at us with curiosity and concern. My God, it was so beautiful. God rolled out the red carpet for us. But you didn't have to go to San Miguel to get that. You did not have to go to San Miguel to get that, because that is alive everywhere. Everywhere that you are awake and claiming the summation of your impeccable ways. Love and the language of love is being whispered in every hallway of God's kingdom. And it's all saying the same thing. Work with your words. In the beginning, there was the word. Be impeccable with your word. So I'm going to close with one tool. And it's called self-talk. And it's actually from that book that Filippo suggested, that's called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And that's the one tool that I invite you to practice this week, because so often, the worst way that we are with our words is our words with ourselves. When we say, I'm broke, I'm tired, I'm no good, I can't believe this, I'm horrible, I am so embarrassed. Ugh. Like, wash all that away. The author of this book invites us into this thing called self-talk, where you're invited to talk to yourself. And it might, it might be best practice when you're in the shower or driving alone in the car, but whatever. If you're not afraid of looking crazy, practice it wherever you are. But it uses affirmations. And during these affirmations, I wanted to invite Joni to put up some of the images from our trip together so I could share with you visually what it looks like to be in the heart of San Miguel. use I am statements. I am statements that are present and personal and positive. I am a beloved child of God. I am capable of great things. I am blessed by the power of my word. I use my words to bless others. I use my words to express my brilliance. I use my words to create a better world. I use my silence and my words to express love. I use my words to connect with others in the most creative ways. And I use my words to bless the world. And that's the word.
While I'm bowing in.
Well done.
I was listening. I love when Maureen when I'm here hosting and when Maureen is the speaker, because I just got to keep writing and writing and writing and hoping I catch the drift. So thank you for that, Maureen. I think we're passing to Mary, if I'm not mistaken, just for a moment. Come back for the conversation and get ready for the conversation, folks. And if you've been moved by anything today, we want you to stick your hand up and join the conversation, please. Mary.
Yes, I am looking forward to the conversation as well. Definitely lots to unpack. SpeakEasy is a non-for-profit virtual spiritual community, and we exist on the generosity of our community members. We thank you for playing your part and for taking the opportunity to make a donation for today's daily bread. Your generous donations help us to bring spiritual leaders, artists, and speakers to Sunday service and to keep these important conversations going. As you were spiritually fed by today's conversation, I just invite you to just go within and see what is yours to share. No gift is too small. The donation link, you will find it on the chat as well as at our website, speakeasyspiritualcommunity.com. And I bless any financial gift that you share with us. I know it'll be multiplied, and may the gates of financial abundance just flow back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for that. So, folks, this is where the secret sauce happens, in my opinion and in my experience at SpeakEasy, where we get to have the conversation about tough and tender topics. And I'm going to remind you all, by the way, I'm going to make somebody feel uncomfortable here. And if you feel uncomfortable, it means that you're meant to hear this, right? Maureen relayed the words of Marianne Williamson, and she said, "Your playing it small does not serve the world." So if you're hiding behind your camera or your microphone and you don't want to get involved in the conversation, but you know deep down you should, well, then you should. And this is a safe space. So I'm inviting you to embrace that inner nudging that's happening and join us. So Maureen, I have one question for you, just to kick this off, if I may. You said some of the ladies that you're with didn't know what a sangha was, but I don't know what a sangha is. And perhaps there are other people here who don't know what a sangha is. What's a sangha?
Sure, yeah, it's a Sanskrit word, and I don't know exactly what it means, but what it appears to mean, and I guess somebody can look this up and put it in our chat, is when I was working at the Bodhi Spiritual Center, I was the Sangha leader. So you think I should know this word, but what it meant, the way we're using it, was that it was like small groups it was like small study groups where you would join together and you would read some, spiritual content, and then you have a conversation. So kind of like this could be considered a sangha. SpeakEasy could be considered a sangha. There might be other aspects of it that I'm not aware of, but and the thing about a sangha is when I was leading sanghas at the spiritual center, it was advised that we keep these groups from 8 to 12 people so that everybody had an opportunity to share their voice. And so this is this is why that might not be a sangha, is that there's more people here than that, and that makes it easier for people to feel like it doesn't matter what anybody what anybody thinks about what I say. It doesn't even matter if I'm here or not. when you're in a smaller group, it does matter because people do pay attention. And so that's what I know about a Sangha.
Thank you for that. Just, yeah, I just didn't, I had no concept of it. The other thing you said that I found fascinating, except I didn't really find it fascinating, is you arrived on the exact day when all this celebration was happening, and you didn't plan that, but it was planned at a higher level by a higher power, by God. And I fully I believe that, you know, we turn up. And in fact, that was the first phrase I wrote down as you were speaking today. You said, be impeccable with your word. And what I heard was turn up. Turn up. If we turn up, and everybody, there are 40 souls here have turned up here today, you're all very welcome. We're all very welcome.
Yeah.
Nothing,
You know,
nothing can happen unless we turn up.
yeah, no, absolutely. We actually arrived on the full moon, which was really cool. And then the last day was this huge festival. It was incredible. It was like, these were things I couldn't have planned. And that's what I was saying to the ladies when we were planning, you know, for months before the retreat, which we meet every other week for like 4 months before we host a retreat. And I was saying to them, like, just leave space because things are going to happen that we couldn't have planned. And they do. But here's the thing about turning up, turning on, showing up is your presence is, as Lucy said last week, your presence is such a gift. Your presence is such a gift. And I said to Lucy last week, well, sometimes I show up, but I'm not actually there. Like, I'm with my kids, but I'm engaging in like false connection where I'm actually thinking about something. I'm like, and she said, even that is a gift. So whatever degree that you're actually showing up is a gift. But if you're showing up and you're thinking, I would like to share, or I would like to be more visible and want to be more connected, but I'm really, really, really scared, that is normal. That's where most people live. I take it for granted because I spent so many years busting through that. The first time I was ever in a play, I froze. I froze up. I was a little kindergarten kid, and I froze up both times. And the kid next to me had to like elbow me to get me to talk. And unfortunately, I was letter A of the alphabet, so I started the whole show. And each time, and the teacher said, oh, everyone did great. They were like, except for Maureen. And she was like, well, she won't do it next time. And sure enough, the curtains open. Next time I froze up again. So sometimes when we get so far from our original wound, we forget it. We go, well, you just share. It's not that hard. But it's good to remember. And I do remember that it can be really hard. The very first time I was ever actually in a show, I had a teacup and water in it, and it shook so hard that I was like, took a shower every single night. You know, so and then one day it clicked, and one day my fear got a little less, and all of a sudden I connected the meaning of my words with the script, and I was like, oh my God, I'm actually like saying things that are sort of important on stage. Like I was so afraid. I was just like saying robotic words just to get the words out. And then I got to experience artistry, and I got to experience creativity after some of that fear got a little loosened. And man, that is something to experience.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to invite Lisa in just a second, but you said something there, and it reminded me of something that I said during the week. I was speaking to a group of entrepreneurs here in Ireland, and there's this phrase that I'm sure everybody here knows, and it's anything worth doing is worth doing. And I'm sure you'll all say, well, right, anything worth doing is worth doing well. I was taught that by my parents, perhaps you were too. But in fact, the truth is anything worth doing is worth doing badly to begin with. And Maureen, just what you explained there, you know, you couldn't even get the words out, letter A, and here we are, and you're leading a spiritual community. So we have to start. That's the point. And we cannot start top of our game. We just got to start where we are. Thanks for that, Maureen.
Yeah,
Lisa.
and I just got to add one thing to that. For me today, how that shows up is in saying people's last names that I don't know how to pronounce. And the old me would have just said their first name. Like I'd be like, my friend Jackie, you know, and not even attempt to say her last name. So yeah, attempt to do it badly. You'll be forgiven. And then you'll learn how to do it correctly. And it might take you 250,000 times, but at least you're trying.
Hi,
Lisa,
you're welcome.
I love that, Maureen. Just on that note, I was in the hospital recently and I didn't have like knitting needles or anything. So I just got really good at French braiding my hair. And I've been like putting off learning how to do that for my entire life because I would just have other people do it. And I would do other people's hair, but I never learned how to do mine. But anyway, okay. That was great. I had to step out because I was having chest pain, which is good. I mean, it's good that I noticed. I think my anxiety, since I've had some health stuff lately, is presenting as different things. And this time it was like, my heart hurts. And I'm like, oh man, I just wish I went to Mexico with everyone, but it's okay. And it was so nice to hear about it. And also, like, you made some amazing points. I'm in all these group therapy things. It's really cool, but it's a lot. We're talking about setting goals. And Maureen, what you were talking about, never entertaining an idea or something about limits, like never thinking about like your limits or it was just interesting to hear all these people who are also in recovery of all different shapes and sizes of recovery talking about their goal setting and stuff. And so I guess what I'm wanting to ask, because the whole like shoot for the highest power, like but with mental health, I'm finding that like when I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna like whatever, like publish something or like put something, whatever, it just gets to be like, okay, my God, my truth, my big goal thing, it gets to be really scary. And then we're learning about breaking it down.
Right.
Coming back to like your own values and like how does that connect to the world, blah blah blah. So I don't know what that was.
You do know, Lise, and it's really great to be aware of that because we're not talking about magical thinking here because that can be really harmful. Just be like, oh, I'm just going to think my way into greatness. No, greatness is delivered like one thimble at a time over 1,000 days. Like Barb Martin, who's on now, like she's writing a book. It's taking her a long time. And it's okay, because we're veering towards greatness. We might never arrive, but we're going to shoot for it. And then we're not going to judge ourselves when it doesn't appear the way we see it in our minds. My husband's learning to play the guitar, and he's just taking one class a day for 10 minutes. That's what it looks like. It looks like a lot of plunking and sore fingertips, and it looks weird and awkward. It doesn't look like what you think it's going to look like for a long time. It's okay. But enjoy that. Enjoy the journey of developing something new. Hey, Barb.
You're welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys too. I feel like I have so much to say and I'm going to forget half of it, but the whole like putting yourself out there, that's kind of been, a struggle for me. And so Maureen was great when we were at the writers conference. She kept like shoving me in front of like people like, and she's writing a book and do you want to hear about it? And I was like, but it was good. She pushed me beyond my comfort zone, and it's something that I'm working on. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't come out perfectly. And the writing is a process, and sometimes it's not great, and that's okay. And sometimes it feels great, And then that the comment about you were talking about Filippo. And right away, I looked at that book, and I'm already doing like the self-talk, and all right, I am a good writer, and just kind of changing some of the programming that we've had as children, maybe, and that helps you, it helps me anyway. I've already seen it. And then the last thing, I just wanted to talk about how wonderful it was to meet all these women in person. You see people online, and that's wonderful too, but there's just something about everybody's energy, and everybody had this different essence, and it just all kind of harmonized together. And it was just a beautiful thing to be with everybody. And I loved sharing the energy of San Miguel and what all came together. Maureen already described what a beautiful experience it was, but I'm like, looking forward to an event is something, and then the event is something else, and then the afterglow is another thing. It's like it was just a beautiful thing. So I just wanted to share that too.
Yeah, what's funny to me is like, when you're willing, your teacher appears. So like I wasn't the teacher, it was Filippo. Like he was the master teacher that dropped the Bible on us with this book. And we're all like, okay. And because he was so easy on the eyes, I'm sorry, terrible. Like my inner cougar is coming out. Yeah, we were listening, raptured by his every word. But what he was saying, if I can excuse myself and forgive myself for that, but what he was saying was what we needed to hear. And even, you know, even when I hear people talk about me, when they're like, Maureen really reamed me or Maureen pushed me forward, I don't see myself that way. I feel like I'm way more gentle than people experience me, because I feel like we've been hiding so deeply that when somebody just holds open the door, you're like, "Ah!" And it's like, you know, I was only pointing light on what I knew to be brilliant. That's all I was doing. And when we hide, that light can feel very scary and threatening. And so we perceive it as a push or a shove or a reaming.
Yeah, no, it's not you, it's me, for sure. For sure.
I just don't want anyone to think that I'm going to push him off the cliff, because I'm trying my hardest to be gentle.
No, you were gentle. No, yes, it's the way that I'm perceiving it. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's good to notice that, like that I feel pushed into something, and it's like, but I belong here. How can I be pushed into where I belong? I paid the ticket. You know, I gave the man a ticket. I showed up to the convention, and I came here to talk about this book because this book is so important. In the same way that, look at Filippo, he's like, my work is so important. It's going to do good work in the world. I have to learn how to advocate for it. We advocate for so many fucked up, shitty things. We know all kinds of languages around bullshit that we shouldn't be sharing, but we don't know how to advocate for the brilliance within us. And that can feel really threatening, because we're too big for your britches, or that's your ego talking, or whatever. Don't worry about that. That is not going to be you. If you fear that, then you have enough fear to not do that. You're gonna move in gracefully because you have so much fear. The ego is using that fear to keep you quiet. So if you fear that, you can be sure that that is actually not. It's the people who don't fear that, who are like, I can just talk all the time and everybody needs to listen. Those are the people that might need a little filter or two.
Yeah, and it's trying to reconcile that with going at the pace of peace, you know, like the comfort and I need to, you know, put myself out there, but at the same time, it's that balancing, you know, with, so it's, anyway.
Yeah, no, it's
forward, but slowly. Yes.
Yeah, and it's a great thing because I don't have to dictate the pace, because this book will catapult you into a greater consciousness. You didn't dictate that. All you did was say, in the silence of your soul, I'm ready to deliver this book. And in whatever piece, sometimes we'll feel really fast, sometimes it will feel like so mind-numbingly slow. And I don't have to worry about the pace of it. The pace of it is in God's hands, as I'm willing to continue to show up one sentence at a time, one stroke at a time. That's all. I got to take care of that. And if I just take care of that, the pace will be what it will be. And like I said, sometimes we'll feel like it's happening so fast, and sometimes we'll feel like it's happening so slow. And that's just how it happens.
Barb, thanks for sharing. That was great. I loved
bowing out.
Bowing out.
You just started now, Maureen. Barbara, no, that was lovely. And I loved, by the way you let Maureen off talking. You said, well, she pushed me off the cliff gently. But the bottom line is she pushed you off a cliff, and she makes no bones about it. But that's part of her brilliance, and we all need that. I'm going to just comment. Did I see Lisa Tolbert? Yes, you're very welcome, Lisa. Just 2 seconds. Lisa mentioned earlier, you were talking about your recovery, Lisa, and we wish you continued success with that. A couple of things there, if I may. Lisa's taken notes the whole time, as am I, whenever I'm at SpeakEasy, whether I'm host or not host. So it's something I'd recommend, take notes, because you can go back over them and say, oh yeah, that was said. So thank you for that, Lisa. And I also, what struck me, what came to me was, we're all in recovery. We're all recovering from childhood, right? We've all, honestly, we've all, got hang-ups, and, we don't feel worthy or whatever, because of how our parents, who did the best they could with what they had, passed on to us. We spoke before we went live about 100-year work. We're all taking the baton, and passing it on. So, okay, enough. Lisa.
I
you're very
love the
welcome.
100-year work, by the way. Love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Morning, everybody. I was one of the lucky participants of our San Miguel trip. There's so much I could say about the opportunity that became one of the biggest gifts that I've had in this journey with Course of Miracles. Because we have a kind of a Zoom existence and we see each other through Zoom every morning, it's a little bit more challenging to establish relationships with the wonderful women that are all on this journey with us. I feel like I know.
Amen.
And men. And so this in-person opportunity to experience women who are on, and men who are on the same journey, to access the power that is so freely given because of our communal want to love each other, became such a catalyst for change for me that I can't recommend an opportunity like this through A Course in Miracles and through SpeakEasy more. It was a beautiful place. The people that I was with were all in the same kind of open and willingness to have experiences happen. We lost track of miracles. We honestly said, there's another one. And we wanted at the end of it to just compile all the miracles that we had encountered all week, because we were open and willing to see them. And the beauty of the people there and the lessons that they teach us, that they taught me about, it doesn't matter what you have or outside, it matters what you have inside. And they had such strong senses of themselves and family and community. I don't think I saw one kid with an electronic device in his hand. They all experienced life and loved life. And that was such a wonderful, wonderful lesson to see.
Can I share your story about how you ended up on the retreat?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't even thinking about really doing a retreat. Barb invited me down to a writers' convention, and I was like, yeah, I'll go to the writers' convention. And then I said, it'd be really cool if we could add a retreat onto the end of it, because it sounds like an amazing place to bring people. And the very next day I got on the call, and Lisa was on the call. And our spiritual practice calls Miracles Live 365. And we were practicing A Course in Miracles, and she was crying because she had wanted to go on this service retreat with her church. And her service retreat was saying, let her know that she couldn't come on it because of her background check, basically saying, like, you're guilty, you can't come. And, what I was teaching today, I was like, if you see your brother's innocent, like, he will show up innocently. So I said to her, well, screw that. You can come on our service retreat in Mexico. I didn't even know we were having we weren't really even committed to it. But it was like, it was my desire to remind her of her innocence that was sort of a springboard to creating this retreat. And so all of the miracles happened because there was a place within you, Lisa, where you didn't really believe that you were too guilty to go on a service trip. And that's nothing short of sunrise. So thank you for that.
The thanks is all towards Course of Miracles SpeakEasy. It was a gift, and I'm going to take Marianne Williamson's advice and not be afraid of my power in my life. I don't think I could.
Lisa, thanks for sharing. Thanks, and thanks indeed for allowing Maureen to share that piece, that story there, because that's very powerful. And that's what we're talking about here. I think people were talking about turning up. We spoke with this earlier. We turn up, something can happen. If we don't turn up, nothing can happen. Filippo, I wrote down, you said, Filippo, he's going to continue to tell the story until it is made manifest.
Yeah.
Filippo or Felipe. But anyway, that's what I wrote. And that's key. I think we've all got to decide how we want our life to look. Keep telling the story. Keep telling the story. Keep opening the doors that are opening in front of us. Stop banging our heads against the walls that are not. And if we turn up, great stuff can happen. And everybody was blessed by it, it sounds like, on that trip. Not just the people that you visited, but the people who visited them got something back. So that's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Maureen, we could go on all evening or all day, so let's not. I was thinking about your husband. I was watching Lou Martin, by the way, when you're talking about your husband learning to play the guitar, because those of us who play the guitar, we've been there, sore fingers, and it's clunky and it's painful even for the people in the room.
Yeah.
If he keeps going, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. If he keeps going, someday he could be a Lou Martin. All right. Pleasure. Colin bowing out.
Maureen bowing out.
Maureen, thank you. What a fantastic, amazing session. What a brilliant session, you guys. It's just a feast to get to sit in on all this. I'm so grateful for all of that wisdom. And I have followed Thich Nhat Hanh. I've been to 2 of his events. I know he's passed away recently, but he's been a huge inspiration. So it's great to hear about his students spreading his message around the world. Living so, and I love Marianne, living so consciously. What else can we ask from a spiritual group than this? It's a feast again. Thank you. So I'm going to finish off with one we all know here. This is Teach Your Children. You are on the go, must have a code that you can live by. So become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, your father's hell will slowly go by. Keep them on your dreams, the one they picked, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry. So just look at them and sigh. Tender years can't know the fears that your elders grew by. So help them with your youth. They seek the truth before they can die. Teach your parents well, your children tell, will slowly go by. Keep them on your youth. They seek the truth before they can die. Teach your parents well, your children tell, will slowly go by. Them on your youth, the ones they fix, the ones you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry. So just look at them and sigh.